Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us again. Yes, 2 days in a row. Luckily, found some time and found some quality time for David. Hi, David.
G'day Ash, how are you?
I'm good, thank you, mate. Hey, thank you for joining me. This is going to be interesting because I know I've had a few chats with you, but they've always been at networking events, and sort of short and sharp. So I'm really looking forward to having a good chat virtually over a Dram. Um, and I know you like your whiskies.
Absolutely love my whiskey. Single malt all the way. That said, there was space for a good bourbon or an Irish.
Yeah, yeah. Well, for tonight, I'm doing 4 American whiskeys because you and I were talking before the video how sometimes you feel like a certain whiskey, and I was feeling bourbons tonight. Wife made delicious nachos for dinner, so kind of thought, it's either tequila or bourbons, or like I'll do bourbons.
Love it. It's funny you say that. Actually, when I was looking at my whiskies before, I caught a view of my cognacs and thought, oh, I wonder if I could sneak a cognac in and not anyone have anyone notice. But yeah. I've stuck with my single malts, so here we go.
Good on you. David, can I ask you, how many days have you been locked down for now?
So I started back in March, and today is day 42, I believe. So, wow. Answer to life, the universe, and everything. 42 days.
Wow. So. And how come you are doing more of a jail sentence than the rest of the Kiwis?
Sure. So we've been over in Australia, my wife and I, during the start of March, and we came back to New Zealand literally 2 days before the government announced they'd like us to mandatorily self-isolate. So I talked with my business partner, Jeremy, and decided actually I would voluntarily self-isolate for the 2 weeks before I came back into the office. So my official first day that I was going to be back in the office was actually the day where the lockdown was announced, or the day before the lockdown was announced. So I've gone from my 2 weeks of my voluntary into another 4 weeks or 5 weeks, it looks like now, of mandatory. So, hey, that is what it is.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, it's good you took the precaution before anyway, voluntarily. We know a lot of people didn't. There were reports of people moving around even though they were told to stay home. But are you feeling any effects of it? I mean, it's a long time at the house, and I know you for a fact like traveling. We talk about that quite a bit. Must be hard for you to stay in the same home. I wouldn't even want to say area for such a long time.
So the really interesting thing for us is, I guess, we're less than so much as we've got a lifestyle property. So by having, I guess, a lifestyle property gives us space to go and walk around outside. We can go and see the animals. We can interact. But that said, you're still confined to your property. You can't just go and, I guess, go and visit friends, which is frustrating because I often tell people I'm an extrovert, and I say that in the sense of I get my energy from interacting and hanging out with other people, networking, talking. I mean, that's why I love going to networking events. It's just great learning about other people and talking. And yes, I have hours of calls each day, generally anyway, with business, even when I am in the office. But just having that contact is a lovely thing. So, yeah, I guess day 24-ish, I think, which is nearly 20 days ago, nearly 3 weeks ago, was probably one of the days for me that was a bit of a downer, where I realised, okay, I guess I'm really for the long haul here. But it's still quite neat, in the country. We know most of our neighbours, even though they're kilometres around from us. When people are going for walks, it's quite nice actually saying hi across the road and chatting and saying things like, "Isn't it great the grass is growing?" or "Oh, isn't it wonderful that so and so's happened?" or that kind of stuff. So there's a few things that you can see. Wasn't it great the rain's come? It's been a chat. So and that's really great for us, because you've got a lot of pasture that needs to regenerate after the really serious drought that we've had this year. So there's things like that. One of our staff actually came back via Hong Kong back in January, and so it was a pretty easy choice for me to self-isolate, to be honest, because for him to come back via Hong Kong, we asked him if he'd be willing to self-isolate for 2 weeks, and of course he did that for us, and then came back to the office. And so I thought, well, if my staff can do it, and Jeremy and I talked about it, if the team are willing to do it, then of course we should follow the same principles. So, hey, here we are.
That's good. And let's talk a little bit about Company X. How long have you been involved What's happening?
I'm just going to have a quick sip of my first dram, if that's all right with you. Slanja.
Yeah, which one are you having first? Is that the Kalila or the Lafroy?
Yeah, the Kalila, 12-year-old Kalila.
Nice. I'm having Four Roses small batch bourbon.
Love the Four Roses. Good choice.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've been involved with Company X since we founded the company. So Jeremy Hughes is my co-founder. We founded that business back in 2012. So we've been trading now, eighth year of trading. And we've had some great successes over that time. 3 years running, we've been named in the Deloitte Fast 500 of fastest growing technology companies in Asia Pacific, which is actually really cool because Asia Pac includes Korea, Japan, China, so it really is quite a significant thing to be listed in that top 500 tech companies of growth. 2018 was an exciting year for us. We got named as the fastest growing tech company in the fastest growing tech region in New Zealand by Deloitte. So that was a great outcome. We've won lots of other awards as well, industry awards for innovation, for our products and builds and entrepreneurship. So that's really, really inspiring for us, to actually be recognized for what we've done. What's really interesting for us is that, when we formed the company, Jeremy and I, we're not spring chickens. We've been around the industry for a while, and we had some important aspects or considerations that we wanted to focus on, things like having a great work-life balance. I know it sounds cliche, but for us it was really, really important. Jeremy wanted to live in Raglan. I was quite happy to live in the country, and so for us, the whole idea of having to drive in, Jeremy to drive into, say, the main office in Hamilton every day would take an hour and a half of his time just in traveling or in commute. And so the idea of us being able to work remotely when we wanted to was actually really important for us. That said, we've been working remotely for lots of clients around New Zealand and around the world. In fact, during Jeremy's time, before Company X, he was doing work for businesses in Wellington, New Zealand Police as well, other organisations, and it didn't really matter that he was based out of the city, and for me, I'd been doing lots of consulting work around the country as well, based out of Nahina Podi, which is where I live, and it was working really well with our teams. And so for us, I guess predicating the business on remote working and flexi time was really important for us. And now we've got staff, our team's based all over the show. We've got guys down in Wanaka and Dunedin, Nelson, in the North Island, Wellington, Raglan, of course, Jeremy and others over there, Hamilton, Cambridge, Gisborne, Auckland, Whangaparoa. I'm trying to remember all these, all over, literally. I mean, staff in Australia as well. So it's it's a really great model. Everyone connects together. So for us, having to go to a remote work solution wasn't actually anything. It was just business as usual. It's just we weren't allowed to leave our homes other than for groceries. So it wasn't a huge. And in fact, our businesses, we're quite blessed that our business has been growing as well. During this time, we've had a lot more work going through. We're hiring at the moment. We've got some open roles, some new open roles for software developers that we need. So it's a really good thing.
Are you hiring any in-house whisky experts, or you have the job already?
Hey, I'm always happy to have a buddy along, and that's for sure. So I'll put the ad up tomorrow, and you can apply. How's that sound?
Yeah. We'll call it just no interview, just for. I'll turn up with some whiskeys. Yeah. So David, most of my chats with you, I mean, I could fake it and claim that I understand your industry, but I don't at all. But could you give us an example of where you've held a Waikato, we're both proud Waikato boys, where you might have held with your software or your work you do, a Waikato company, could you give us an example?
Absolutely. So what's really interesting about Company X is we often talk about Silicon Valley savvy with a sort of a New Zealand twist. And what that means is that we do a lot of work export related. So we won an exporting award from Export New Zealand as part of New Zealand Export Awards for the work that we do up in the US. So we export all around the world. We've got customers up in Europe, in the US, Australia, and quite a few places in Europe as well, and I think South America somewhere. I'm not too sure right now where. I mean, I've got a sales team as well, so they do a lot of work in terms of closing work and winning work around the world. We have a lot of partnerships with other large organisations where they work alongside us, and we find work and projects together. So what do our projects look like? Well, we love to do work which involves innovation. Now, I know that word sounds like a cliche, but what it means is we love to build cool new stuff. We love hard problems and interesting problems. People to ask us, well, what do you do? Well, Company X is a professional services company, but in so much as we build software, we act as the brains of helping you design software and understanding how you can automate things. So the whole idea when people come to us is we're looking to either save them money or make them more money. That's kind of the angle. So if we can find an existing process in their business or some existing way of doing something and automate that, then that's a really cool win for us, and that works really, really well. The other area, which of course is quite interesting for us, is the area where we help you make money. So lots of people have interesting new ideas, opportunities for, I guess, creating new markets, and so we love the ability to, I guess, build software and build solutions and products for people to attack new industries and to basically increase the revenue. What kind of clients do we have? So we do a lot of work in New Zealand for the New Zealand Transport Agency. So we do some really cool work for them around effectively the road efficiency in New Zealand, around road classifications. A lot of work in the data space, and we do work for Cisco in the US. So Cisco is a Fortune 100 company on the NASDAQ in the US, and working with Cisco is a great opportunity. When you're dealing with a Fortune 100 company, I think they used to be Fortune 50. I think they're about number 60 largest companies in the world. I mean, they have $50 billion in revenue.
Wow.
Every year. So they do all right. I mean, and last time I looked, I think their cash reserves were around $33.5 billion US dollars in cash reserves alone. So when you work with companies like that, they certainly have clout and ideas, and they have aspirations for growth. So we love working with those kind of companies. We do work for all sorts of people who want to build apps. So when they say, hey, I want an app for something, not so much an app in terms of selling apps and making money off those apps, but building apps to enable their business to do things, new ways of working, all that kind of idea.
David, I think a friend of yours in Raven is commenting, Georgie Patton.
Oh, right, cool. Yeah, I know Georgie.
She's going, where are you, Raven? So I'm assuming Raven is safe in the house somewhere, enjoying a wine or two, hopefully.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. I'm sure she's around somewhere. They're right down the other end of the house at the moment. Oh, I just saw one of the kids run past. I think
I could see the child in the glass behind you.
On the reflection. All right. Yeah. Excellent. Yeah. So yeah, they're all watching a movie at the other end of the house. One of our, I guess, saviors for sanity in this house is the media room. All the kids, they watch a movie every night. That's kind of the routine they've got. Oh, there's Raywin walking past. So that's kind of their gig. They get to watch a movie in the evenings. Raywin is in charge of being headmistress and school teacher for 4 classes, effectively. My 4 kids is 12, 10, 8, and 5, and so it's not just a case of running one class, it's a whole lot of classrooms.
Oh, yeah.
For a time. But hey, Raywin's enjoying it. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's hard work. So when I come in for lunch or afternoon tea, she's certainly having the experience of being a full-time teacher.
Yeah. Well, it's a job I don't envy, and I definitely don't want to apply for that role because luckily my wife is holding.
Sorry, Ash, so your wife too, isn't she? Your wife's a teacher?
No. Well, she's a home teacher at the moment, yes. But she's been helping with the business as well because we got under serious pump for a few days. So she came with us because not all the staff is working. Some actually do not want to work, which is okay. But now the last 2 days and even tomorrow she'll be staying at home, just setting the kids up for there's so much coming, man. And my kids are 5. No, he's 6 and 9. My boy's 6, girl's 9. And I'm being intrigued by all this stuff. Like every day they're telling me about all this other fun stuff they want to do, not the educational stuff in the middle. And I said, hey, look, don't tell me, tell mum. I'll tell you, yes, you can buy this or sign up. Yeah.
Well, it's fun though as well. Like I've been able to go in and do a few science experiments with the kids as well. So I got to do a bit of physicsing with them around showing them how scanning waves work in nodes and superpositioning and harmonics and frequencies. That kind of stuff was quite cool. Which normally, I wouldn't have a chance to do that. So, we got a little Bluetooth speaker and put it in a plastic container with some Glad wrap over the top, and I used a tone generator to do certain frequencies and look at the various harmonics of that. So that was quite a fun thing to do. So there's stuff like that I wouldn't necessarily do. I got to do a bit of chemistry with them, the whole baking soda and vinegar, and explaining to them how that works, and which is kind of fun. So I'm not complaining. And one of my daughters actually said well, I didn't say to me, but said to Rowan, I really like having Dad working from home because we get to spend so much more time with him. And I thought, well, that's really cool. That's really cool. I guess, when I'm at work, I am working, and when I'm at home, I am working. But I guess she gets to see me when I hop in for a snack or come for lunch. And, when I finish work, literally I get to hang out with the kids as soon as I finish work rather than having to do a commute or driving anywhere. So that's really cool.
I would like to share something embarrassing with you that happened probably about an hour ago.
Sure.
I said to my kids wanted me to do something cool. I don't even know how the conversation got there. I said, I know of one experiment, you can fill up a glass with water to the top and you put just a piece of paper, just push it hard. And I said to them, look, don't laugh at me because I did this probably 27, 28 years ago in my classroom, but I'm supposed to put it down, and then when you flip it, it should stay, but it didn't. And I did it over the sink, so it kind of held like for a quarter of a second, and then just the paper gave away. I wondered if it was a thicker paper you're supposed to use. I mean, I was in the classroom many years ago. But
if you use card, the vacuum effect works much stronger. I think obviously you would have saturated the paper and it's lost its surface tension and gave away.
And then being
just talking about things like surface tension and capillary action, because all the stuff applies to distillation as well. So it's quite on topic for talking about spirits.
100%. Now I was kind of panicking. I found one of her drawing books, which is just paper. I just ripped the paper out of there, and I was like, yeah, this will do. It will hold. It seems thickish, but nah, it wasn't thick. So 42 days at home. You could almost write a book. I mean, it's a marathon. I mean, marathon's 42 Ks, but are you planning to go to work? Now we know a little bit of the timeline, what is allowed or what's not allowed. Are you planning to go to the office?
Yeah, so I was talking with our office manager this morning, actually. So she was looking at what that means for us in terms of level 3. And she's obviously established and spoken to the companies who we work with in terms of our health and safety and our advice around what that means and what our obligations are. And of course, for us, because we can work remotely, we're probably better off working remotely. So for us, it's basically business as usual. So we'll carry on working the way we have been, and we'll carry on working from home. And that's great. I mean, every week we have an entire call where all of our staff video conference in. I think when I say all of them working, it depends who's available at that given time, because of course we've got some clients who need calls and other things. But I think the most we had on the call was 53 people or something or other, all with their little Windows screens showing up, just chatting on the call. So we're doing that. That's a really fun call and have a Zoom. Actually, sorry, that was a Google Hangout with all the staff. So that's really, really cool. And of course, we also maintain a happy hour. So every Friday, we have a happy hour for those people who want to just have a bit of social jib-jabbery, talk about life, grab a whiskey, grab a dram, or wine, or gin.
Can you talk me through it? Because I'm supposed to be hosting one on Friday with a couple of friends on Zoom call. How do you get 50? Like, do you have to mute people, or what if they all speak at the same time? How does that work?
So it kind of depends. So, you kind of, I guess, when you experience with video conferencing, like most of our, well, actually all of our team are, you understand some of the etiquette around it. However, tools like WebEx and Google Teams have got some really, Google Hangouts have got some really cool aspects. When you join and there's a certain number of people in the room, it automatically mutes you, right. So that you don't speak over people. And of course, you've got all the moderation tools, so you can choose to manually unmute people as an administrator. But it works pretty well, to be honest. And when people talk over each other, you just say, "I beg your pardon," and you carry on. And the interesting thing is that in a couple of groups we do have chats running alongside, and that's really, really helpful as well, because of course, as you normally do when people break off and have little tidbits or discussions on the side, people kind of have this running channel of typing away bits and pieces, or just I guess tidbits in relation to the conversation, links, ideas, rather than having to speak up. So yeah, it works really well. Don't get me wrong, it's no substitute for Daniel Hopper's LinkedIn local events, but you know, it's certainly a great way to meet up and talk and relax.
Yeah, it's funny. I was actually trying to find a picture of you and me together somewhere, and I found one, but there was 5 of us together at the end of the LinkedIn local. So I thought, well, cut it. So all the other guys are out of the picture, but that was at Geelong, a place you and I probably know. Yeah.
There's a few photos of you and I actually, and usually we're smiling and holding a whiskey.
Yeah.
I think we must have got I think we got some at Clawlands of us as well and a few other places. But yeah, that Geelong, that would have been good. We grabbed one in the evening, at the end of the evening as well. I remember that.
That's good fun. Actually, probably the hardest work I've done and one of the most memorable tastings I've ever hosted was at Geelong, just on that long table. It's just a calm evening, the gardens, it's just magic. It's just, and it's I'm proud, and I know you're proud to have such a facility in and around Hamilton.
I mean, Geelong really is, it's a world-class destination. I mean, just between you and I and everybody else listening, you know, Company X, we've had a few retreats there as well, you know, executive retreats and staff meetings, off-site meetings there, and it's just such a wonderful place to meet because it's out of the city, not too far away. There's amazing food, you know, they cater everything for you, whether you want morning teas, lunches, afternoon teas, dinners. There's no shortage of tea. There's whiskey if you want whiskey. So it's, you know, such a really professional venue. And as you said, the gardens are amazing, and the facilities are just fantastic. So I've just moved on now to a Lefroy.
Nice.
This is
the 10?
Lefroy. Yeah, it's a 10. So
nice. What do you think? Or should I ask, do you prefer the Kalila 12 or the Lefroy 10?
Well, what's really interesting is I like the peatiness of the Lefroy, but I prefer the smokiness of the Kalila. It's a little bit, I guess, like the Lagavulin 16. You know, there's a sort of, I mean, yes, you could also, I mean, I guess when you're on Islay, you know, you've got Lagavulin, Ardbeg, and Lefroy all next to each other, and they really are that little trio of peat and smoke bombs. So, I mean, don't get me wrong. Obviously, I don't want to forget about Brooklady and others on the other side of the island, but you know, I guess Kalila in the north. But you know, those whiskies, I really, depending on what mood and whether I'm feeling in a peaty mood or a smoky mood and the level of ppm, you know, whether I'm going to go for, I mean, well, I was going to say, actually, I'll even go for an Octomore sometimes, which of course is a Brooklady. But you know, most of the stuff you can get from Ardbeg, Lagavulin, and Lefroy, depending on what island mood you're in. I don't know whether I mentioned to you in the past, but you know, I'm kind of a seasonal whiskey drinker, so my choice of dram depends based on what season it is. I mean, some people think, yeah, that's a bit weird, but I think it works quite well. So you know, in the middle of winter when the fire's going, and it's cold, I really do love the smoky drams, you know, and in summer, or certainly even in spring more so, is when I change into the space sides. I love the heather and honey type flavors coming through, you know, even some of the lowlands, you know, the Glenkinchis, but you know, certainly I guess the Balvenie, you know, fantastic. I've got a few bottles remaining of the discontinued Balvenie single barrel 15 year. Though you know, it's probably one of my favorites, if not my favorite, in terms of an approachable whiskey at a decent price for a great dram. It's just a shame that they stopped making those. Nevertheless, you know, you've always got to buy with backups in a couple of years, you know, intention to keep going. That said, they've replaced them with some decent other whiskies as well, you know, and even things like Macallan, you know, I'm a great fan of Macallan. Yes, they are kind of the Rolls Royce of whiskey in terms of price these days, and they pitch themselves in that way. And even with their brand new distillery, I don't know whether you've seen the new distillery and what they've done there. It's certainly quite deconstructed, almost utilitarian. I don't know whether I'm a big fan. Certainly, it's sympathetic to the environment. It's certainly a change from their old distillery and the connoisseur tastings they ran there. But you know, that's a great whiskey, wonderful sherry. That said, you know, the Macallans I was drinking, you know, the early 90s bottle, you know, 91, 92, the last of some of like the duty free or the travel bottling, such as the Elegancia, before they moved into the new ones, were much richer, I found, with some of the finishes. So it's you know, do I hark for the old days? Well, I guess that's the problem with all whiskey connoisseurs. You the good whiskies which are no longer available. So absolutely, I was a fan of the whiskies bottled in the 80s and 90s from Macallan. But don't get me wrong, they're still fantastic. I know Ulf Buxrud, who's got the entire library of Macallan's
Wow.
from 1940 every year. That's basically every bottling he has. He lives up in Malmö in Sweden.
Wow.
So really cool guy. Big fan of Macallan.
Yeah, I mean, in my house, you'll never find a Macallan because the new ones, I mean, hey, look, happy to sell one, but I won't be opening one with my own money because they sit there $40-50 above a lot of other stuff, which is comparable. But we have a lot of clients who like them and they will buy every new release. They don't even want to know how much it is. They must have it. And that duty-free market is very well served by Macallan. You know, you come off the planes, depending on which duty-free you're in, you know, they will always have the beautiful decanter ones, which are 60
right.
yeah.
In the Lalique, you know, Macallan in the Lalique, you know, it's always there. You know,
Yeah.
$6,000, drop it on me. I mean, I don't necessarily disagree with that idea. I think there's always a place for a premium product, and certainly a lot of cultures have a very strong culture of gift giving. And so as far as a gift to give, what a fantastic, I mean, if someone gave me a gift of a Lake decanter full of Macallan, I'm not going to look a gift horse in the mouth. It's great, it's fantastic. Absolutely, I'd drink it. You know, but there's some others, you know, I mean, even our friends at Johnny Walker, you know, they've got some premium bottlings as well. I mean, the Johnny Walker Blue Label, you know, it's a great idea. You know, it's whiskey's apparently generally over 30 years old in there. And, you know, as far as a blend goes, it's a great blend. Is it value for money? Well, you know, I guess if you like it, it is. You know, that's what it comes down to, you know. And the same is for any whiskey. You know, you can get some great whiskies for $80 a bottle, you know, sometimes. And when I say great whiskies, I mean great at that price point. So it's not like everyone's going to be dropping $450 on a bottle of whiskey every week, is it? So
No.
You kind of want to work out whether you're drinking for special occasions, whether you're dramming for a relaxation time, or whether you're actually, you know, trying to provide for a party or something.
Yeah. Someone on LinkedIn has just asked if they can have a sniff of my Ilaha Craig. So I'm more than happy to sniff it on their behalf. It's rather nice. But also, like I'll come back to Johnny Walker, right? The Johnny Walker Black. My father-in-law, he was here on a grandparent's visa, which has expired now, but he's allowed to stay extra days. And he's ex-military, but he's not a drinker. And him and I, you know, we don't sort of drink together. But the last 2 weeks, he's been drinking whiskey every night. And for the first 10 days, I gave him Johnny Black, which he likes. And he said, I like Johnny Black. That's quite nice. But it's not here. I gave him Nika from the barrel last 2-3 nights.
Right, yeah.
He's like, whoa, that's much better. You know, and this is a man who's drinking with ice and water. That's how he enjoys it, which is fine. But some of the flavors still coming. And he said, oh, that's very nice. Impressed, you know.
I love
you know, yeah.
I always have a secret little decanter of water with me just in case, you know. You never quite know how it's going to work. I'm sure you must be the same as well. Exactly, you know, and that's the only way to do it, you know, because for me, sometimes I just want to explore the character of the whiskey a little bit more. And, you know, people claim, yes, ice anesthetizes your taste buds, and yes, it does affect your tongue. But the reality is, if you enjoy it, enjoy it. You know, there is no correct way. I mean, and you can, if you're really worried about losing your whiskey with cold, well, then just use some whiskey stones. You know, there's lots of solutions available. I love looking at the Thompson just over your shoulder there as well. In fact, it's kind of a great view. Exactly. Thompson over that shoulder, and the PX cask, I think, directly behind your head, the Lafroig PX, which, you know, is great. Two great whiskies right behind you.
Yeah.
And it looks like some lager directly above your head. Is that right?
So those Lagavulins are from when I went to the distillery. They are the Jazz Festival releases, and it's been more than 2 years. I still haven't opened them. I have no intention of selling them, but I mean, I've got so many bottles in the house, bottles that are for sale, but we shall not sell them. And I would like to open for key milestones, you know, and luckily many are coming, you know, as I'm getting older, and making new friends as well. It's quite good to obviously keep some of these bottles also for when I do tastings. You know, you want to pack in something quite cool. And I'm happy to say it, but in a weird way, you let the client pay for the bottle you wanted to open anyway. And I get to try it as well.
I've had some really cool opportunities to buy bottles for people when they've said, hey, David, I really want to buy a cool bottle of whiskey, something special, and I'll find them something special and say, you should definitely buy this as a gift.
Yeah.
Or buy this for your party. And the great thing about that is then often I get the chance of sharing that with them, which is pretty cool, to be honest.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Well, someone's just commented on Facebook. Samuel, he's having a Glendronach 18, which is a favorite of mine. Just amazing sherry bomb.
I was going to say the Glendronach. I've got some amazing finishes, and the one there's actually even the Glendronach, which has got the what is it? The sherry. There's a specific edition, the sherry edition.
But both
amazing.
The 15 to 18 are like, you know, solid Oloroso character. I haven't seen much of the single cast stuff here. I mean, the book I shared with you, you were one of the very early ones who got a copy. Behind this one as my whiskey of the year. Which way do I go? Benriach. And I mean, look at the color, man. I mean, that's hypnotizing. That's
absolutely.
You know. And
you know, when they talk about color, you know, it's really, really important and really exciting to understand the difference, you know, that color can give away. You know, yes, you can use caramel and E150 and all sorts of things in whiskey, but you know, when you see a really ruby whiskey, you know, it's going to have such a fantastic Christmas pudding, sherry, grapey finish, and it's just, you know, and when you're in that mood, it's amazing. It really is.
Yeah.
Which I guess is one of the reasons why I love Macallan.
Yeah. Well, you know, I mean, there's a difference though, right? And you obviously travel a lot more than me. There's a key difference though. Like when I was in Hawaii, the Macallan 12 was like 45 US, which is about 65 Kiwi. You know, I mean, if it was that price here, I would drink it too. A lot of it, you know.
Sure. And that's the big issue with us is excise duty and levies on our spirits here is so high.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the same with cigarettes and cigars, you know. I mean, and the government makes its money some way, so why not have it on luxury items like spirits and cigarettes? Or not that I'd call cigarettes a luxury item, but certainly an item which maybe cigars I'd call a luxury item in terms of collecting duties on.
Yeah. We've got a very good friend in Christchurch, Grant Ovenden. His company is Canteros. I don't know if you buy cigars. We get a few of them. And him and I will. Did you see that movie? Thank You for Smoking.
Yes.
And him and I always joke about how we're looking for our third merchant of death. You know, somehow. You know, I mean, liquor is frowned upon, smoking is frowned upon. It is what it is. I do believe it pays its way in a weird way with excise. But we always joke how we need a gun guy so we can sort of complete the trilogy of merchants of death in a weird way. Yeah. So David, can I ask you what's coming up? I'm guessing things have changed. You're telling me people in your company are working remotely, so the work's getting done. But was that something you were working on for 2020? It's still quite early in the year. Something exciting in the play?
Yeah, so you know, we acquired a virtual reality company last year, a company called Pepper Creative, which is now part of well embedded into Company X as our VR or virtual reality and augmented reality division. And as part of that, we actually signed a partnership with a company in the US called RealWear. And RealWear make these head-mounted tablets. It sounds weird. It's called the Real HMT. Feel free to Google that, people, if you want to have a look at some stage. But it's effectively it's a headset that you wear with a little boom arm with a screen. And it's got built-in GPS and cameras and all the ability. And so that's been used quite a bit around the world. They've been selling in the hundreds just recently with COVID. It allows you to do remote working. You can share screens so people can watch what you're seeing on their screen remotely. You can use it for remote support, remote assistance. Up in the UAE, they've been using them a couple of weeks ago with the thermometer attachment, a infrared thermometer to do screening. So I'd stand a couple of meters away from you, for example, and I'd just say scan, and it would scan your temperature and show me what temperature your body was. And so you could do remote scanning of people's temperatures in real time and effectively look at an audience with a real-time display in front of your eye. In China, they were also using it back in February, I believe. Was it late? It was late January and February. They've been using it in China since there to do red zone, green zone of doctors. So other doctors who don't need to be exposed to COVID-affected people can be in a safe area or a green zone, and then one doctor or one medical practitioner can be wearing the headset and having the interaction with the person. I'm sure they're wearing all the PPE and protective equipment, but they've also got this headset on as well, and people then can ask questions remotely and see things up close in terms of, you know, if it's in relation to lesions or something else. They could look at a lesion on somebody. I mean, there's so many uses for these. Companies that, of course, haven't been able to travel, where they support really expensive equipment, you know, millions of dollars worth of hardware. If there's any maintenance-related issues, they can have somebody on the ground who's there, just put on one of these headsets and do the full streaming. And so then someone sitting at their office or at home at a desk can provide real-time analysis and diagnosis for that person on the ground and say, hey, just go and have a look at that, look over there, look up there, look a bit closer, and actually do a diagnosis from 5,000 miles away. So there's some really cool stuff that we've been playing with in that space. And what's really amazing is one of the units is what's known as intrinsically safe. And that's been really exciting for us. So intrinsic safety is the ability that you can take one of these electronic devices onto an environment where there's risks of explosion. So for example, clients of ours who work in the gas industry, you know, the natural gas, they can use these devices in and around pipelines and around gas without the risk of it sparking. The same with bakeries, you know, there's a whole risk of combustion with all the fine powders and flours that can explode, you know, just spontaneously. And so with these intrinsically safe devices, you can also use them in those environments. So we're finding a whole lot of new markets, certainly in this world at the moment, where people are having to do remote support or do work in relation to, I guess, screening and separating people. So that's, you know, that's some really exciting stuff for us that we hadn't necessarily expected, you know, what Corona was going to provide to us in terms of the ability to screen people based on temperature using these devices, or the huge drive. You know, yes, we've been doing a big push or marketing campaign around remote support and remote hands, experts on demand. But now people are really embracing it and they're seeing the need as to why this is so important, especially with everybody doing video conferencing and, you know, and calling online. It's just a natural extension, or it's just another version of another device which also does that. So, hey, we've had some really good uptake in terms of people understanding and seeing the need for this now. So yeah, that's that area for us.
I want yeah. Sounds quite cool.
One of the sad things for us, I guess, for this year is, you know, we do a lot of work internationally. So it means that some of our team and myself, of course, and Jeremy and others who are used to regularly traveling internationally have had our wings clipped. You know, disappointing for us, but completely understand. And, you know, and with my elderly parents, I wouldn't want to expose them to COVID either. So, you know, quite happy to stay in my own bubble and not have to travel internationally and come back. So, you know, that works for us. And because we're using so many remote working tools, you know, Cisco WebEx, Google Meet and Google Hangouts, it's business as usual for us, and everybody expects us to connect that way. So, you know, I did have some great trips planned this year. But hey, I'll have a great year at home, I'm sure. We'll do a bit of domestic tourism.
Yeah. But have you personally noticed an uptake in the alcohol consumption? There's a lot of amazing memes doing the rounds of how many empty bottles are ending up curbside, or yeah.
I have. I saw a meme which made me chuckle, where they said, what was it, prior to COVID-19? I used to have to try and convince people that I wasn't an alcoholic and I just had a party. But now with COVID-19, I need to convince people that I haven't had a party, I'm just an alcoholic.
Yeah.
In terms of curbside. So I've seen a couple of those memes and had a chuckle and think, oh, yeah. That said, I don't think alcohol abuse is actually that high, you know, and I know quite a few people who are enjoying relaxing, you know. I know that alcohol is obviously a depressant, so it does mean that, you know, if you are stressed, it can obviously take the edge off certain things. But at the same time, you know, my wife and I, we've been eating home every night, as everybody else has, and cooking dinners. It's really nice to have a fantastic fine wine with dinner. So, you know, we've been getting our Gibbs Valley Pinot Noirs and matching into those. We're getting some Savvies from Craigie Range and doing some really great wine matchings with our dinners. And so would I say our wine intake's gone up? Absolutely, you know, because it's great to have a delicious wine with a fantastic home cooked meal. In terms of whiskey consumption, probably gone down, to be honest, just because I guess with all the kids around all the time, there isn't really the chance to try and sneak away somewhere or have it. You know, usually I have drams socially out anyway. So because I'm here, it's just a case of having a wine with dinner, and then Ray and I watch a movie with the kids and they're off to bed. So new routine, but a great routine.
Yeah. That's interesting. So we're kind of getting at that point of the conversation where with all my guests, I sort of ask them 3 questions, and they get to ask me 1 question. So I'll ask you my first 3 questions, and then you can come up with one.
Can I pause for one moment? I'm just going to give myself going to go to you're going to go to Sky and have a Talisker.
Nice.
That's bleeding out. Sorry, guys. Apologies about that. This is the Talisker 10-year-old. Talisker's a fantastic whiskey. You know, ever since the 18-year-old won Whiskey of the Year back in 2008, it's just been amazing at how the demand for Talisker jumped up, and especially for the 18-year-old. But you know, Talisker in general is such a great dram. And in fact, if anyone hasn't been to the UK or hasn't been to Scotland, I really, really encourage them to. Well, obviously not this year, but at some stage in the near future to make a pilgrimage. And when you're in Scotland, to go out to Skye. It's a beautiful island. The Cullen Mountains are incredible to walk around. The moors are amazing. Portree's a really cool little capital city of the island. And of course, the Talisker distillery is just amazing because they do some of their own stuff there still. Like they've got some of their own maltings on the ground, and they've got a really great cellar door. So hey, you've been to Talisker? Have you, Ash?
Nah, because I was under such a tight time frame. It was going to be 2 full days, and anyone and everyone I talk to now speaks so highly of it. I kind of regret it. Especially considering I bummed around Glasgow for 3 nights watching movies in theaters by myself. Those 3 days could have been used to definitely could have been used.
That's right. You could have driven up. You could have driven up the west. You could have driven up the west coast, past Oban, and dropped into Fort William and gone up to Skye. And hey, next time. There's always there's always a next time.
Of course, yeah. I mean, I'm hoping once things settle, I can go back, and I would love to go back. Because I mean, I had to drive past Oban because I drove all the way from Inverness down to Kennecraig to catch my ferry to Ala, and I had to slowly drive past Oban to sort of, I'll come back for you one day, wait for me, but it is what it is. Yeah. Cool. All right. Question number 1.
It's a great bit of the Sorry, you got your 3 questions anyway. I shouldn't detract from that. I'll let you hone back into your points.
I told you this is casual. There's no script or anything. I'd just like to point out a couple of comments though, which you'll find funny. So there's a rumor, right? I don't know if it's true. It could be true. I've been told it's maybe true. Is that the Glendronach 18 we're drinking right now is up to 24 years of age, and we hear this thing a lot, and it could be true because the 18 is a number that's the youngest drop that's gone in there, so there could be some very old whiskey in there. Do you buy into that or?
Absolutely. So obviously I've travelled to quite a few distilleries and I've talked to many master blenders as well. And the reality is, yes, absolutely, the age statement is the youngest whiskey that's in there. I know some bottles of whiskey which have vatted with whiskies which are in the 30s. Even though it's like a 15 or an 18-year-old expression from that distillery. And I guess that's one of the frightening things is when I talk to people, the lack of understanding about actually how they do vat barrels together. The fact is that a single malt whiskey means a single distillery, not a single batch or a single barrel. It literally means a single distillery. So the whole point of the master there is to blend, to create a consistent character for those expressions I've developed for that distillery. That's why it's exciting sometimes. Like with the Belvini 15-year single barrel, what I loved about it was that you'd always be guaranteed. I don't know whether this is going to work very well. Hopefully it might.
Yeah, we can see it. Yeah.
You can see. Oops, there we go. You've literally got the cask number and the bottle out of that cask, and so that's really, really cool because what it means is that you're always getting a whiskey which is single barrel, just single distillery. So it's like a single malt. The downside with that, of course, is that you aren't able to once you've drunk that bottle, it's gone. Well, a lot of numbered bottles as well. That was really, really cool. That that when Belvini did the 15-year-old single barrels, you could get some really cool barrels. And if you found a barrel that you liked, you kind of rush out and try and find more of that barrel, but you never find it again. That was one time wonder.
But I think what you do then, like in my case, if you name something your whiskey of the year, you make sure you buy up just about all the stock that's in the country before you do so.
That's right.
Then it's
I
only
remember
for
buying a whole, yeah, I remember buying a whole lot of whiskies once, which were, it was a mothballed distillery, and they still had some. I remember going to a couple of bottle shops around New Zealand, and these bottles right at the top, all covered in dust, and I'm looking at these bottles and thinking, I know what that is. That whiskey is no longer made. That batch is completely gone. That bottle's worth $1,000. But for these people who've got these independent bottle stores, have got no idea. They just bought it from Nathan or whoever was at that stage and put it in the store, and it was a bit too expensive. So it's kind of just gone to the top, got dust on it. So yeah, certainly 15 years ago, there were some really cool opportunities just to wander around places like, it's even in the Waikato, places like Tokoroa and Cambridge, Tito, Matamata, just those bottle shops, and go, oh, I see you've got it. That looks really dusty. Do you want to sell that? And, oh, look, it's been here for years. Or, oh, look, I'll knock quarter of the price off, and you can have it. And you're like, well, thank you very much. Not only have you saved me money on what your bottle price was, but actually you've just given me $600 worth of value as a collector, which is kind of cool. Which kind of is it's interesting, Yeah.
That's how over the years I've collected all the 12-year-old Alaha Craigs. Just driving around in some random liquor store. Even in Australia, I did a couple of times, picked up just one each time. Because the new ones, there's no age statement and it's younger whiskey. But I like the 12-year-old. You know how, I think I might have been telling you the story, because my dad, he still owns the 2 liquor stores in Cambridge. This is years before my knowledge or interest in whiskey arose to the level it is now. He had some of the Glenfiddich Snow Phoenix. You would remember those. And he said to me, some American guy came in, and he's just a tourist, he's in town, and he was shaking. He's just like, oh my God, I'll buy these 3 off you. I need to run to the ATM and get some cash. Can you not sell them? And my dad's like, I've been here for 4 years. I think they're not leaving in a hurry. Literally, the guy's back in 5 minutes. He's just like, take my money. And now with the knowledge I have, I would have cherished those bottles myself. They are really sought after.
I remember once I made a mistake. I went into a bottle store. I won't name it because some people might actually know who owned it at that stage. And I went and I saw an Ardbeg 17, which is a very rare whiskey. To buy those bottles now, you'd be lucky to buy one for less than $1,000. You might find them online from the UK for $800, but you have to pay duty and all the rest to even bring them in. Usually they sell for a couple of $1,000. Anyway, I saw one for sale in Hamilton at a bottle store, and I said to the guy, do you realise it's an Ardbeg 17? And he looked at me as if I was a moron and said, well, yes, that's what it says on the bottle. And I said, yes, but do you appreciate the value of that bottle that you're selling for $135?
Wow.
And he's like, no. Maybe you should go and Google that bottle. And I let him Google that bottle, and I went back the next day and the bottle was gone, And I said to the guy, I see that bottle's gone, did it sell? And he's like, oh, no. Yeah, we've taken care of it. So and sometimes it's nice to share and let people in on a little secret, because the Ardbeg 17, if you read reviews online, Master of Malt, all the whiskey sites, it gets amazing
reviews.
I guess. Yeah, I was going to say reviews, but even more than that, fanatics. It gets amazing fanatics around it, and it's such a shame. But yeah, the reviews, it's always getting 5 out of 5 or 9.9 out of 10, that kind of stuff. So
yeah, I'll share this one. Not that particular bottle. This is an independent bottler called Elements of Allah, and they just brought into the country their 19-year-old sherry cask Ardbeg.
Right.
And that was just, it was just. And we got allocated 2 bottles. Luckily, I tried some during a tasting session, so sold both bottles. And my client was like, "Oh, this is, it was funny. It went from being, oh, why in a small bottle, to, oh my God, I need more. Give me more."
Absolutely. Which is when you get a great whiskey like that, that really is a story. Just the flavors are just amazing. I remember. I used to really love the Lafroig 10-year-old cask strength. So they had Lafroig had a 10-year-old cask strength for years, and it got discontinued for a while. I've got a new cask strength now. I'm not too sure what the story is around that. I must have a look into it. But I remember when that came out, I was doing a whiskey tasting down at the Tongariro Lodge, and for some lawyers. And we were just chatting about it, and I said, "Oh, you realise this is one of the whiskies that I really quite enjoy surprising people with." And I said, "Everybody just take a nose of this," and so they all nose this this cask strength Lefroy. Yes, very smoky, very peaty. I'm like, "Yep, that's true." I said, "What's really great about this whiskey is that if you cut it, and if you cut it significantly with water, it actually smells like old socks." And these people didn't believe me, and they said, "So have a look how much you got in there. Add the same amount of water to that whiskey, and take a nose." And I had a room of about 30 people gagging, that there's all these tricky things you can, if you basically change the azeotrope, in terms of, you dilute your whiskey and all these micelles just unwind and all these new phenolics appear. These people are gagging, how can you make a whiskey smell like rotten socks, So it's kind of cool, the hidden aspects of some whiskeys when you know about what it's like when you blend them back and join them. In fact, I've had sometimes when there's a bit of whiskey left over, making 8 p.m. batting specials where you just tip a few things in.
Yeah, well, I mean, speaking of odd smells, I remember, I don't know which, I can't remember. I tried too many whiskeys. We both have the same problem, but it was this particular whiskey. I described it as how would it feel like if you licked an old leather sofa, and this guy asked me, it's like, have you been licking old leather sofas? How do you even know that's a character that should exist? And I said, no, it's just, I wanted to say something even worse, it's like licking dirt or licking something quite earthy. That was so dry, and I thought about old leather sofa as a character. But yeah.
What's really fascinating is some of the banter that went on, certainly in the late 90s, even the early 2000s still, but more around the late 90s, there was a mailing list on the internet called Malts L, which was a mailing list that was run by basically malt maniacs back then, but because was it? Yeah, it was part of the malt maniacs guys, and there was this ongoing debate about salt. Often they talk about salty or briny whiskey, but there's no salt in the process. Where people, they would claim, I can taste salt. Maybe it's the warehousing of the barrels on the seafront on Isla, which gets that saltiness into Lefroy. So there are a lot of chemists and biochemists and all sorts of people, who are on this mailing list. And the level of research and was a guy called Ralph. He's passed away now, but he'd done a whole lot of research and kind of settled the science once and for all around saltiness and whiskey and what caused them, where it came from. So that's what I love about whiskey. It's this tension, this kind of dichotomy between art, and science, which it's a great place to be.
I think it leads more towards art than science, because you obviously you have a technology company. Things can be created, but things have to be molded a certain way. I've had the pleasure of talking to some of these guys, who've been in the industry for, like, we had Alan Winchester from Glenlivet in the country about a month and a half ago, and this guy's been doing it for 45 years.
That's right.
And I don't want to quote him, but I think the sense I got out of him, even now, they feel a bit disconnected with the production because it's getting quite automated, and that kind of leads people like you and me towards more of the single cask or small production whiskey, seeking that sort of art of the whiskey, instead of something. Have you been to Glenlivet?
Yeah, I have. And I guess what you're saying, and it's the same with any kind of process that becomes industrialized. Automation is great, but it takes away some of the art sometimes.
Yeah. I was not going to have a Scotch tonight, but it's my original love affair. Once this is all over, mate, I'd love to share some of this with you.
I tell you,
someone's spamming my Facebook chat.
Love it. I really like how people have got great things to do with their time. Burger Planet, what a great guy.
Whatever makes them happy, right? I'll delete them later.
There was Cardrona is another great distillery. They've got some really cool things happening there. And in fact, the tours they run down at Cardrona are fantastic in terms of how close you get to the entire process. And because it's still at the craft kind of scale, it really is just, and it's on our doorstep. In fact, domestic tourism guys, get down to Cardrona and check them out. It's incredible. I mean, you've got some of the Just Hats, haven't you? So
Hmm. Well, my very top shelf, which is off camera, is all
Yep.
5 Cadrona single casks. Big supporters of them. And obviously, like a lot of people question why I support Thompson so much and Cadrona, and I said, look, if we don't do this now, they will not survive. Think of every release that comes. If you buy that one bottle, it's like a small donation towards the continued success. And I mean, like, most of us could spare the 100, 150 bucks. It's the right thing to do so they can continue experimenting and just putting good product out. Yeah.
I mean, I bought some of the Thompson's 18 and 21-year-olds. Even though it's not their distillations, it's from the original Lamel, the original stocks. I one of those ones here behind you, is that the 15 or 21 or?
I've got the 11, the 17, and 21.
Oh, cool. And that was the really cool experience, because you're buying whiskey, which is New Zealand whiskey, which is really cool, and they're making margin and it's supporting the distillery. And things like, some of the the Manuka smoke, the progress report stuff, it's really, really cool. And give that 10 years, it's going to be some amazing whiskey, some really good whiskey. So let's get back to them while we got the chance, And even the stuff that turns out at the Hallettsville Brewery with the distillations happening there, it's great seeing actual distillation happening out west of Auckland, down in Cadrona as well. It's brilliant. I mean, and why wouldn't we support the industry?
Yeah. No, I agree, mate. 100% agree. All right. Question number 1 for you.
Please.
All right. I know you and Raven both love your travels. If you were allowed, and I'm sure you will be, where are you off to, like in a jiffy, to overseas somewhere? Where are you going straight away? Like, I must get the travel time. Yeah.
So I'm quite keen to get to, this year I was really keen to get up into Canada, just to see some friends there, because I wanted to check out some of the Canadian whiskey, but also it's a really great place in terms of scenery, and it's just that Canadians are cool people, so that's a great spot. But in terms of where I jumped straight away, Japan's a really great place. I jumped straight to Japan. Where else would I fly to? I love Samoa. Samoa's a great place just to relax. But when it comes to work, I do a lot of work, obviously, in the US. So the US is probably another place. But to answer your question, where I'd go straight away, where would I jump to if Ray and I could go somewhere tomorrow? Probably to the Maldives.
Oi, nice.
Yeah. Or the south of India. Someone like Kerala, great places in the world, lovely and warm, fantastic food.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've never been to Maldives, but having grown up in India, we always saw pictures of Maldives as the pristine, the precious,
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we've been to Bora Bora, and and once you start ticking off some of those locations, you kind of go, right, I've got to see if the next one's just as good, if not better. And so, Maldives is one of those locations we've got to just go and check to make sure it is as amazing as they claim.
Yeah, interesting. Right, question number 2. What would be one historical figure, if you could go back in time, you would want to have a whiskey with?
I'd really love to have a whiskey with Michael Jackson. And when
with Michael Jackson?
Michael Jackson, I don't mean Michael Jackson, Michael Jackson, the whiskey connoisseur, as opposed to Michael Jackson, the singer.
Yeah,
so,
right.
Michael Jackson was kind of.
I didn't know he. This is a revelation for me. I didn't know he would like this whiskey.
Yeah, and so, so this is Michael Jackson, the whiskey connoisseur. So he passed away, unfortunately, a few years ago. But he was the guy who really started writing the whiskey Bibles, doing the reviews. Actually, that said, interestingly enough, Dave Broom is currently in New Zealand. I understand he's down in Christchurch.
Yeah, I'm hearing 2 stories. I'm hearing he's either escaped now on one of those special German planes, but he was here for significantly long. I had a good chat with him, man. That guy is just awesome.
So I was talking to the Whiskey Cast guys a couple of days ago, as you're aware, and they said he was still here apparently.
Oh, wow.
Short of reaching out to Dave himself directly, I guess we'll never know unless we do. But the Whiskey Cast guys are pretty well connected, and they said he was still down in Christchurch. So, but that's cool. Yeah, but I mean, Michael Jackson, because he was sort of the golden era writer. He wrote through the 80s when things really started to get big in terms of collecting. Things were a lot more relaxed in terms of methods and styles, and that's when a lot of distilleries were starting to produce some really great whiskies. All you got to do is look at some of the books he's written, some of the editions, and go, oh wow, that would have been amazing. Oh, that whiskey would have been amazing as well. So, meeting him would have been kind of cool, talking about some of those things. He loved his beer as well, so he was really into to beer before even the craft craft scene took off. So yeah, interesting time.
Yeah, yeah. And question number 3: what's the most memorable whiskey you've ever had? Could be a single release, single cask release, or
To be honest, it's kind of funny because my most memorable whiskey actually is a Lafroig 10-year-old. And the reason why it's memorable is when I first got introduced to whiskey, it was through a friend of mine. We were on a board together, and his name's Graham. And he decided along to one of the board meetings, one of the directors' meetings, to bring a box of whiskey. So he bought this box of 5 single malts and said, right, guys, after the directors' meeting, we're all going to have some drams. And for me, I hadn't really touched whiskey back then. You know, the closest I got to whiskey was probably like I guess, like a Bailey's, you know, an Irish cream or something or other, you know. And so, don't get me wrong, I certainly I drank spirits and cocktails and all those things, but never really drank scotch, let alone drank it neat. And so the first whiskey that I ever tried was a Glenfiddich. It was a Glenfiddich 12. And he said, try this. It's pretty light. You know, you'll find out. He said it's a bit like, you know, a bit like explosive juice if you're not used to drinking neat. So I had the Glenfiddich 12 and thought, oh, yep. Oh, yeah, this tastes, yeah, like a spirit. This is very alcoholic. And then, of course, he was just prepping because, of course, the next whiskey he had, which he gave to me, was the Lafroig 10-year-old, and said, right, now this is why I love whiskey. And I tried the 10-year-old, and it was just boom. You know, I was breathing smoke. I was tasting peat. It was an ABV of 43%. So, you know, it was good. And I thought, wow, this is whiskey. I really like that. And then, of course, the following day, I mentioned to one of my friends who's an anaesthetist. I said, oh, I really like single malt. And he said, well, I like single malt too. And so pretty much on a weekly or fortnightly basis, when I put up with my other friend, Jeff, he'd share another whiskey with me or another single malt and go through that journey. But it was all sort of kicked off or booted up or bootstrapped by that Lafroig 10 just going boom.
Yeah.
So, yeah, absolutely. And you know, and I love Lafroig. Now, I collect Lafroig. I'm a friend of Lafroig. I've got my quarter, you know, spot over there. That's all what it is. You know, I've been there, dug it, and love it. So, yeah, absolutely.
Did you collect your rent?
I sure did. Yep, I collected my rent. I've got my little bottles. In fact,
I've only been once, and I'll wait for David to come back. And for those of you who are watching on the 8 p.m. Facebook page, I apologize. I mean, it's got nothing to do with us, but some guys putting some very rude comments. I think I've blocked them now, but I apologize. No one needs to see that. But nice, very nice.
It's our rent.
Did you do the tour when you can go out and put the flag down? Because I missed out on that.
Sure did. All my bellies went out there, got the spot. You know, because we're both lords, aren't we? Lord Ash and Lord David.
Yeah. But mate, I mean, I had a brilliant time on Isla. I obviously whiskeys at the distilleries were paid for because they were all trade visits. But I stayed in Port Charlotte, or further south of Port Charlotte, and these guys in the pub, they won't let me pay for drinks. They're like, nah, you don't pay for drinks, boy. And they had a lot of fun in my expense because they were adamant that I'm from South Africa. They just and on the second night I had to bring my passport to show them that I am actually from New Zealand, you know, and it was quite good. Yeah,
it's really cool. I just saw Don Scarlett's comment about the Galapagos. You know, I've got some friends who've just been to Galapagos Island 2 years ago. So Galapagos is another fantastic location. I'm also trying to convince Raven to go to Antarctica with me, but she hates the cold, so I don't think that's going to happen in a hurry. But that'd be a cool location as well. She said to me one day, penguins and what else? And I said, well, it's Antarctica. It's our 7th continent. We could take it off and be there. But,
yeah. I'm friends with this guy. He lives in Doha. He's from Pakistan originally. He ran a marathon in each of the continents on 7 consecutive days, I think, something like that. But he couldn't do Antarctica, but he went and did Antarctica, you know, when he could or time allowed. Yeah. But I mean, if I went to Antarctica, I'll be just sitting in front of a fire constantly and just sipping directly from the bottle.
It's really interesting. Some of those marathon guys, they really inspire me. I was once on a train from Helsinki up to Rovaniemi, which is up in the Arctic Circle in Finland. They call what do they call it? They call Finland the land of the thousand lakes. So we're on this overnight train from Helsinki up to Rovaniemi, and about 1 or 2 in the morning, we were drinking whiskey in the dining car of this train, and because it was midnight sun, so of course it was sunshine. It was daylight the whole time. And so we were looking at the windows at 2 in the morning, and it was still daylight, drinking whiskey. And I said to the guys, one of the guys he was Scottish actually. I said, so why are you guys going up to the Rovaniemi? I'm obviously going up because I'm going all the way to the top of Europe. I want to go up to Nord Cup and say I've been to the top of Europe. And they're like, oh yeah, we're going for I won't do the Scottish accent, but we're going to run the Rovaniemi marathon. And so these guys were literally running marathons. They were doing 26 marathons in the year. With every letter of the alphabet, and so they were up to R. So that was the Rovaniemi marathon, and they had a few more to go until they got to Z. So they were flying all around the world to go to these marathons, which I thought, that's respect. At the end, Slanjavara. Tell you how, it's just amazing.
That's amazing. I mean, that's 26. That's once every 2 weeks.
Exactly. And I asked them, I said, well, how do you do your rest times? Like, oh, well, sometimes we'll do 3 marathons in a week and then rest for a fortnight. And I'm like, bro, that's insane. But I mean, they were fit. They were fit guys. And that was the goal for the year. So I wish I'd kept in touch with the days pre-Facebook days. Actually, it was when was that year? That was 2007. So that was kind of the year that Facebook was only just starting. So, those are the days when you scribbled down names in books. I would have loved to have actually followed up and see how they're marathoning around the world went.
Yeah. But I mean, if we talk to, like, I'm sure your parents, back in the day, there was a real culture of writing, having pen friends all around the world. You found them through the magazines and whatnot, and you stay in touch with them for years, and then one day it just stopped because, well, there's nothing you can do about it. It's, maybe they moved the house and no one knows where they moved to, and
that's right. Disappeared. No such recipient anymore. I mean, it's fascinating actually for me because I was back in the 90s, even the early 90s, I was using IRC, Internet Relay Chat, with people all around the world. And one of the fun things I've done over the last 25 years is actually gone and met those people that I've talked to online, 20 years ago, and just gone to places and just said, hey, I'm David. And it's great to see you. I'd love to buy you dinner and just chat about the world and how it's changed from 25 years ago when we were just plugging away on a terminal. I mean, it sounds nerdy, but I guess it was a precursor to things like Facebook and social media. So I guess I was just the first hero. But, it's really fun, going to meet people. One of my friends, I started breeding tomatoes with the grower. So I've got a friend, Keith, out of Kansas City in Missouri, and he's got a master's degree in plant breeding, and so his specialty is breeding tomatoes. Of course, in the US, they love tomatoes, and so I would breed tomatoes here in New Zealand using lots of his hybrids or joining the hybrids together or looking for certain gene expressions. And so it was really, really cool going across to the US the first time to meet him, flying into Kansas City and hanging out with him a couple of days and talking about tomato breeding. I guess that's one of the cool things, is it's good to have hobbies, and tomato breeding is a hobby you can do whilst you're in lockdown. Just unfortunately not during the winter.
I think for us in New Zealand would be not ideal, but it would be for the guys in the States, I mean, even like with all your travels, you must see all these bottles that must blow your mind. It's like, why don't you ever come to New Zealand? We're in the land of deprived in a weird way, if you can call it that. A lot of people who might be watching on AP and thinking, I'm into $40, $45 drams, which is absolutely fine. Did you meet Ian MacArthur at Lagavulin by any chance?
No, I didn't. He wasn't there, unfortunately, when I was there.
So. I specifically then on the day he was there, and I asked him, Ian, how should I drink my whiskey? And he said, drink it however it makes you happy. Mm-hmm. But if you put ice or Coke in my whiskey, I'll stab you in the eye.
I mean, to me, it beggars belief sometimes when people actually add a lot of water or mix or blend. I mean, they've spent 10 years aging these things, and the whole distillation process is to take the water out. So it always intrigues me, the concept of adding water back in, or certainly copious amounts of water or blending with things like Coke, because all the hard work they've gone to of actually finding the heart of the spirit, aging it, you know, and having the barrel impart so much flavor, you know, vanillins and I guess the ester development, all these things, you know, just to mask that with something like a cola seems, I mean, it's not wrong, but I just find it weird, you know. Surely you just add a neutral spirit and maybe a bit of flavoring if you wanted to have the alcoholic effect of a Coke. But
well, that's what vodka's for, right? I mean, go nuts. Have it with whatever you want, literally. I don't know if you know this gentleman. He's a Lincoln friend of mine, Shane Hill. He lives in Hamilton.
No, but I don't think I know him. No.
Yeah, he is an avid vodka drinker, and I have a invitation pending from him to come to the house, and he's got all these different vodkas in. I mean, I will go one day. I will go one day because he thinks he's going to change my life, which I'm happy to go through. I like life-changing experiences, and he picks up the subtle changes, the temperatures they distill at, and this and that. And I'm actually looking forward to that because this man is so passionate about vodka, which I always found. Well, I've always thought of it as just a mixing. You know, it's just, you know,
I'm trying to hold my laughter too much because I completely agree with you. In fact, certainly up until about 15 years ago, I thought vodka was just a neutral spirit. You know, that vodka was vodka. That's what it was. Until I traveled to Mongolia and I tried Chinggis Khan vodka in Mongolia. And of course, Mongolia used to be part of the former Soviet Union. And so, of course, there was a lot of influence of vodka and spirits into Mongolia. And this Chinggis Khan vodka was amazing. It was vodka I've ever had, and I thought this is as good as scotches compared to a boring old Grants. You know, this is it's magnitudes of orders of improvement, and so I really love that. And I heard that, you know, that actually in places like Finland and Russia, there's some really great vodka, you know, local brands. And so when I was why I was laughing is because I was remembering my experience when I went to Siberia. I was in Siberia. I was really keen to try lots of the local vodka. And I had at that stage, my Russian wasn't that great, so I had an interpreter who came along with me, and she was telling me, she was warning me actually. She said, "Hey, David, you need to be careful about drinking local vodka in Siberia, in Irkutsk, or actually more around Listvyanka on Lake Baikal at that time of year." And I said, "Why do I need to be careful about drinking?" She said, "Because people are going blind this month." So, so, you know, there's that fine line, I guess, you know, and it's the stories you hear from places like Bali and Indonesia these days, where people make arak or other miscellaneous things that cause blindness. You know, if you don't take care and get rid of, you know, methanol and other fusel alcohols which aren't good for you, you know, you're gonna have some big problems. But that said, there's some amazing vodkas that come out of places like Finland and Siberia and Mongolia that, you know, I fully recommend if you ever get a chance or you want to try vodkas, those are the places to try them.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think a lot of those really northern countries, vodka is basically your own little self-heating generation device. You know, you continue to keep a bit of vodka in the system to stay a little warm.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing which is crazy is, you know, up in that part of the world, you know, akvavit or aquavitae, you know, or akvavit specifically in the Nordic countries, you know, Sweden, Denmark, Norway, akvavit literally translates what comes from aqua vitae, the water of life, which of course exactly the same as what the Whiskabertha is, you know, or the Gaelic of whiskey, is literally the water of life. And so you realize that lots of countries, based on their surplus of commodities, you know, obviously distilled and made things. So in places like Russia, where they had surplus potatoes, of course, they distill that and make their water of life, which was vodka. And in the US, you know, they had lots of corn left over, so they distill the corn, of course, and make corn whiskies. And in the UK, you know, they have excess barley, so of course you've not your barley and you make whiskey from that. So, you know, it's intriguing when you look around the world. I mean, even the same is true when you look in places, you know, rum, for example, you know, they're distilling a whole lot of excess product that's available in there as well. So you can kind of the history of the trade in that company or what their export was in terms of where their alcohols come from. So it's another interesting historical little thread that lets you know where they come from and what their commodities were.
Yeah. David, you find this interesting. When we went to Christchurch for the Dram Fest in February, Dave Broom premiered his new whiskey movie there, and part of the movie he's on Isla with these 2 or 3 other people, and they're going around the forest, sort of discovering the source of not just whiskey but alcohol. And there's a term Ishkabar. I think you would have heard of it. So they basically they kind of make like a gin of sorts with all these botanicals, and they've got a hand beaten small still with a fire underneath. And there's about probably 200-300 of us sitting in the theater, like how I would love to taste some of that raw alcohol. I will risk blindness if that's the cost. Or partial. Well, I already have partial blindness. We both do.
Exactly. Mine's what happens. That's what happens when you get old.
Yeah. But and I'll forward you the link to the movie, mate. It's just like like everyone the whole time's just like sitting like this. It's one of the most interesting. And it's all whiskey nerds. Yeah.
Yeah, I do unfairly malign gin at times. I talk about it as the tea of whiskey. The fact that the botanicals really are just a big tea bag that gets dropped into a pot of neutral spirit. And it's made very quickly, and it's a good solution. But that's one of the reasons why there's so much gin on the market as well, because of the construction of all these new whiskey distilleries and distilleries. Of course, you can't call it whiskey until it's 3 years and 1 day old, and even then you want to age it longer than that. So how do you start making money on day one? Well, I guess you get your first batches of neutral spirit, make a tea bag with some juniper berries and other bits and pieces, and voila, there's your gin that you can sell straight away. And gin's not a bad thing, certainly if you get the right botanicals.
Definitely. Well, I think there's the experimentation with the flavors is intense at the moment. I always joke to my wife, any day we're going to have an earwax gin. I think someone somewhere is working on that character. There's definitely the pushing boundaries with gin.
Yeah, I made the comment to gosh, I'm trying to remember what it was, to somebody a little while ago. Actually, I said, gin, modern gin, in terms of where at the moment, in terms of, as you're saying, all these flavors blending and trying, reminds me a lot of the whiskey scene actually back in the 1990s or even the late 80s, but certainly more the 90s, where organisations or brands like Glenmorangie really started big on their finishes, where actually finishing became this whole new experimentation where you'd have port, and suddenly you'd name your Pedro Ximenez, so you'd have Pedro Ximenez finish, you'd have, you'd find butts or barrels and you'd get those, and that would be a sort of a trial, and you'd use some wine from some locations to finish all these sherries. And I remember, port finish, Madeira finish, even rum finish. I know that, who was it, Arran, the Isle of Arran, when they first built it up as well. Arran did a huge number of, in fact, there was a PX, it was Lepanto as well. Fascinating finish on one of their whiskies. And you look at this and you think, wow, I guess they were trying to find ways of trying new things and making new markets, much in the way in which gin's doing as well, trying to find new flavors and markets for their spirit, to differentiate, to create some sort of strategic or some sort of compelling sales point, which, is really cool. That's the whole idea of innovation, right? You keep trying new things until you have something magic and people go, hey, I want that, and they buy it. A bit like AP, say, hey, I want whiskey delivered now. I want that.
Yeah, now. That's what I'm getting now. Now, I want my whiskey now. It's like, hey, please keep patience. My mate David's working on the drone. That will one day enable me to just make it happen. I'll send a drone to you in Wanganui or wherever you are. You remember that there was that scene from that movie, the Jason Bourne, the one there's like a drone. That's the one without Matt Damon. With is that Rainy?
Yeah.
And there's like that drone comes in and drops the package. Well, that's how it will be. It will come at high speed, but it will drop the whiskey precisely, into a cage of some sort, I guess. Yeah. Cool. Well, that leaves you a question you can ask me if you have one.
Absolutely, I always have questions for you, Ash. So my question is, if you could only drink one more whiskey, what would that whiskey be?
Just one more whiskey.
One more whiskey. It can be a bourbon, can be a rye, can be anything you want.
Could be. Oh, it's a hard one. That's a hard one. I need to think about it for a second. A whiskey. I think if I could go back in time, I would love to go to Japan on that trip with you and try that Yamazaki 25 one more time.
Yeah.
Because it came that close to naming it my whiskey of the year. But that was very expensive. And I mean, I shall probably never own a bottle because they're like $18,000. But
exactly.
That whiskey made me stop and think for a long time. You know, it was the Yamazaki 25, all of its time in a sherry cask, and you'll obviously understand the attention of detail in whiskey production the Japanese do. And now I have an appreciation for it, newfound respect for them. And yeah, the Yamazaki 25, if I could, because they price it very reasonably at the distillery. You can buy for about 40, 50 Kiwi dollars a nip.
Right.
Yeah, compared to a bar where them would be $300, $400 a nip because such an expensive bottle. But they limit you to one, and you can't you can't cheat your way around it. You know, go and order like 100 of them and fill up your own bottle bag.
That's what I was going to say. Fill up get your own decanter and you know, decant all these into your own bottle and bottle it up and disappear.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I mean that particular, and we'll share one once this is all over. That Oloroso single cask Benriach is just, it's magic as well. But it's weird though. Like I find the two whiskeys comparable. They compare in age. This is obviously peated. Yamazaki is not. But there's a certain oily character in the Scottish whiskies, which I've become very accustomed to, and it distinctly lacks in the Japanese whiskey. The smoothness of Japanese is just intense. It's on a different level, you know. Like you were saying with the Speyside whiskies, you know, the ones you like during summer or spring, you know, they're just, there's no how to say, there's no dull stop. It's just keep selling, very smooth. Yeah.
I talk about it, you know, as having no attack. You know, when you approach others, there's quite an attack. You know, and often attack refers to the ABV being high when you have the attack, but also, you know, there's a whole lot of other, as you said, the oiliness and some of those aspects of it. They kind of hit you a bit, whereas you can glide in quite nicely to a Speyside or a Lowlands and enjoy it. And I completely agree. I find Japanese whiskies, in fact, you know, Japanese whiskies, you know, I remember in the blind tasting when they won the best whiskey in the world, you know, the world was blown away. How is this possible? A Japanese single malt won the world's best single malt? And the answer is, well, because they make flaming good whiskies, you know, and they're drinkable and they're approachable, which is really cool. Even the Kavalan, you know, from Taiwan, amazing whiskey as well, brilliant. And I guess that's one of the things I like to tell people, you know, single malt is an amazing library. It's a very diverse world. It's not just Scotch. And if you get a chance to try single malts, then you should certainly try different geographies and different expressions. And especially if you're a Kiwi, you should try Thompson's and you should try Cardrona without even hesitating.
Definitely. Well, mate, I've really enjoyed the chat. This has just been, and I mean, I have an ulterior motive. I mean, the same chat I had with Dan last night is in a weird way having this long chat with you because we all live such a busy life. And the opportunity to talk at networking events is obviously short and sharp. But it's been, and I feel like I've gotten to know you a little bit more now. And I shall put a bit of thought into an interesting whiskey. Well, because you still have that voucher which you bid for.
I do. Forgotten all about that.
It's like, well, you did say once the house is built, but you know, obviously coronavirus and all that, so we'll let it settle. So I actually sort of have in my back of head now what drams I will bring whenever we have that catch up, which will be quite cool.
Yeah, exactly. In a few months, I think the world should be hopefully back to close enough to normal, and my house should be completely finished, and we're going to whiskey dram it in the whiskey room.
Yeah, 100%. So you in your current whiskey room, or this is the living room?
Yeah, so this is the whiskey room I'm currently in at the moment. As you can see, the curtains are on order. It's supposed to be getting installed a couple of weeks back. Paste Sans curtains. The fireplace almost ready. The gas is connected, but the electronics aren't, so not quite yet. You know, we've got the got some paintings being restored for one of the walls, which are going up. We've got the stag's heads, which is at the taxidermist at the moment, waiting to come over to get that installed. All the whiskey underlighting and cabinetry is being custom built, of course, but not at the moment. So any day now, things will hopefully be good, and we'll get the room finished.
Yeah. Well, thank you for your time, David. We'll have a little chat once the live finishes, but thank you so much for your time.
Hey, absolute pleasure, Ash. Thanks so much for having me on here, and thanks, guys, for listening.
Yeah, cool. Thank you, guys. So tomorrow I'm going to have Tomic with me and talk a little bit about whiskey. But apparently Tomic has no whiskey, so somehow I have to give whiskey to his house first. But we'll see how that goes.
Hey, Tomic, a little cheat for you, Tomic. What you can do is if you've got a tea bag, just put it into a bottle of cold water, leave it, give it a shake, and no one will tell the difference.
Yeah, nah, definitely cool. And I'll just quickly do a quick shout out. Thanks, Marcus, for watching. Samuel and my mate Paul Osborne in London, he's watching. And do you know Harpreet Arora? He's called you out.
I do. He's my foreign exchange broker. What a top guy.
There we go. And Georgia Matt. Cool. I'm not sure what the guys on LinkedIn are up to, but I'm sure they were still watching. But thank you so much again. See you.
Slungerbug.